Happy Friday from Wisconsin. What is happening here?
Oh, we're just drinking some quarantine here. That's all. It's been that kind of week, hasn't it?
Add something to the coffee today.
So it's celebrating the best week ever, right?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to all of you.
A little top off right there. Quarantine. I recommend adding a little orange juice to it.
Takes the edge off.
Real good.
How's everybody doing? I see Kristen. Hey, Kristen, hope you're feeling better. Michelle's here. Rachel, Jenna, Mona, Ian. Good morning, Ian.
Michelle says, I love that this is part of my new norm. Well, that's very good to hear. I'm glad that it's a good part of the new norm. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties a little bit late here. My good camera wasn't working for some reason, so we're going with the old-fashioned webcam. Probably doesn't make that big of a difference, but
yes, and maybe you can see behind us. We'll talk about it later, but we did make the epic living room fort last night.
Yes, we did,
and it is truly epic.
Part of it here, our entire living room has been turned into a fort.
Yep.
We have beds made of toilet paper in there.
Toilet paper.
And we have it's all fully stocked. Fully stocked. It's amazing how comfortable those things are when you buy them by the caseload. It's crazy.
Oh no. We're gonna be short just like everybody else.
Yeah, so Rachel's asking what everyone's drinking today.
Hi, Roger. Good to see you. Cameron.
Goes good.
Yes, that's our bunker, Cameron.
This time here, you need something to drink, whether it is coffee or quarantine, whatever you need to get you through this
orange spice
challenging time.
Yeah, but I'm super excited about today's topic because we love talking about rules that don't exist. Does it feel like the rules have been coming down a little harder this week? I mean, or is it just self-imposed? I mean, obviously we can't leave. So there's a huge rule that we should follow.
Well, we can leave.
Well, I know,
everything's closed.
Don't go. Yeah, don't.
Some states, some cities
right,
can't
I know
leave,
this is happening. But anyway, the point is this week has been a lot of probably extra rules that we're living by that don't actually exist.
Yeah, so we kind of put the headline, the topic of this show today was rules you should be breaking right now. And so you might be wondering, which ones are we talking about? And the answer is very simple. All of them. No, not all of them. Not all of them.
Pretty close.
So the ones, the ones the CDC has, those are good. Like, don't steal people's toilet paper. That's a rule you should follow.
Yeah, keep the 10 Commandment kind of
thing
going.
Here's the way you can explain and understand which rules you should be breaking. Any rule that you are living by, if you were to ask, why am I doing this? And the answer is because we've always done it that way, or because I think this is how it's supposed to go, that is a rule that you have full permission to break.
Right?
I would like to ask a question to anyone here right now, and feel free to answer in the comments, those of you who are here live. Are any of you here at any time this week felt like you were a big, huge failure? All of us,
for
yes.
all sorts of reasons.
Let us know.
Right?
I mean, I think all of us here feel that way. But here's the thing. It's okay. None of us have ever done this before. We all stink. We all stink. That's kind
of harsh.
But it's true. Yeah. That's the thing. So the whole idea of 10,000 hours, you may have heard that if you spend 10,000 hours on anything, that you become an expert in your field. What we forget is that the first couple hours, we stink. Tiger Woods didn't hit a hole-in-one on his first try. He stunk at the beginning. Gordon Ramsay didn't make a world-class dish on his first try. He stunk. We all stink, and that's okay. And that's the main thing that we want to encourage you this week after this week of trying to figure things out. Some things went okay, some things didn't go okay, and it's all okay.
Did anybody yell at someone they love this week, or was it just me? maybe lose your cool or act out of character. I think that's another way to put it. It doesn't have to be yelling, but do you feel out of sorts with your own being, right?
Yes, yeah. So I like what Dan said here. Confusion is the beginning of learning. And that is exactly the point of this today, is we're getting to the end of the best week ever. No. But we're getting to the end of it. We were thrown into this and we were all trying to figure it out, and that's okay. And one of the things that we saw people online talking about and struggling with is the challenge of trying to make things the same. So whether you're working from home, trying to figure out how do I make work at home, how do I do that, transfer that over, and then the same thing with schooling at home. A lot of people have been thrown into that role.
Right.
And that has been a challenge because they're trying to create a school classroom in their home. And that's hard, if not impossible to do. So we just wanted to share a few thoughts today on this. Hopefully it will encourage you. Hopefully it will give you some things to think about over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I'll let you start with
yeah. So one of the sources I shared in the Mighty Networks Escape Adulthood League, which if you haven't joined there yet, please do. It is our community of peeps, of Adultitis Fighters. It's just escapeadulthood.com. No, .me, escapeadulthood.me. So I just shared this 10 minutes ago in there. It was a podcast I listened to this morning on my walk in the woods by the very beloved Pam Laricchia, who I follow very closely. She has a site called Living Joyfully, and it's for unschooling families, which is what we happen to fall under. But her and another parenting expert, Anna Brown, put out a podcast this week for anyone who has kids at home, and it was called Home with Kids. And I came back from my walk and I was like, every parent with a kid, I don't care if they're 18 years old, but if they have a kid at home, they need to listen to this podcast right now. They did such a thorough and thoughtful job of sharing how to make this a very memorable and positive experience. So I'm going to take a few things from them just to kind of share with you because they were golden nuggets. And one was the difference between, why not? I don't know if there's a rule that we're all living by, maybe as we start this new way of living, that we have to be really productive, right? Productive, like that's how we are at work. That's how the kids are at school. That's how life is. We're productive people. And maybe it's that productivity isn't the top goal. Okay. So to break that rule and maybe let fun be the top rule. Like, it's not always possible every second of the day, like we're not living in a circus here, although we do have a really big tent. But I'm like, productivity versus fun. I think that's a really interesting thing. And they brought up the point, which now has really challenged me, to be honest, to say, can you make this an experience that when your kids are grown-ups and they're telling their kids about this very historical time of life, that they are smiling and laughing as they recall all the memories that you guys made in this really unique time of life. And I've seen memes about how fearful kids are and how much transition they're going through and the emotional health that is very important to maintain. And that's done through fun, play, togetherness, right? So I'm going to share a couple little rules to break under that category, but I think that's the main thing is our schedules. Okay. And this goes for anyone who was working outside the home, who is now at home, is you don't have to maintain the same schedules. And actually, let's have some fun with this. Have freedom with it, right? So
you're saying like a rule that doesn't exist is thou shalt have school from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m.
or 8 to 2 or whatever, right? And for the people working, thou shall work from 9 to 5. Like sleep till 10 if you can, work later, whatever, or you're more efficient because you don't have your commutes or whatever it is, right? And for kids, oh my goodness, like the thought of trying to get our kids to do a day like at school here at home is just insanity, right? So the schedule can be broken, that what you're used to, and you need to find a new rhythm. And that's unique to every single individual. It's unique to every single household. You might have grandparents living with you right now, or who knows, that might have changed the whole dynamic of every household out there. So break the rules. Maybe the school day, or maybe your bedtimes change. Maybe there's like screen times change. Like, oh, they used to only be allowed to have this. Well, maybe now that you're all kind of in this different setting, they actually get more screen time. And you can give yourself permission to do that, because guess what? You're the parent, you know? So there's things you do, and it doesn't always have to be just watching movies. It could be educational games or YouTube for kids and all that fun stuff. So the schedule is a huge rule that you can break. Another one is the idea of what the kids are doing for school. Now, this I have to be a little disclaimer asterisk by, because every district is doing things different and it's changing. I know that. So I'm not going to like invite you to get in trouble from your school's, you know, district policies. However, to look at what your kids are doing differently. So our educational approach with our kids is that they're learning all the time. When they're cooking with dad, when they're playing piano, when they're playing Legos, when they're building with blocks, when they're watching a show, you know, learning happens all the time. So the rule to break is that kids can only learn from a teacher teaching them, whether the teacher is at school or you. Kids learn all the time without you. And it's really freeing as a parent.
Spoiler alert.
I know. It really isn't about us. It's just about their natural curiosities and their natural interests. So give them some freedom to pursue those natural interests. Give them the time. So the biggest thing that Pam and Anna said was that we all have a gift right now. And that gift is time. And we can squander it, or we can embrace it and like break those rules to make it happen.
I could jump in with something here. One of the things that is good that I'm seeing is people are getting a newfound respect for teachers and how hard their job is. And I think that's awesome, because I speak a lot at educational conferences. I love teachers. What is interesting to me is that the hard part of their job, what makes it hard is not the teaching part. Right. What makes a teacher's job hard is coordinating 25 or 30 children at one time, right, who are coming from different backgrounds and educational levels and needs and behaviors and styles of learning. Mm-hmm. And they're all trying to keep everyone on the same path of this government mandated curriculum. Right. That's hard. That is hard. Now, what like Kim is saying is now you can step back a little bit and you can say, okay, if we are learning about the Revolutionary War in school, is it really that important that they need to keep learning about that right now? Or will these next 2 weeks or month or whatever be something they remember when they're in college? I mean, like, those were amazing times. So my encouragement is whoever's responsible for being with the kids right now, what can you teach them? What are the skills you have? What are the things you know how to do? Things like baking or sewing or woodworking or fixing cars or engines or doing something on the computer, designing a website. Like, what's your skill? That could be something that you could teach your kids right now. No, it's maybe not what the district has planned for everyone, but right, they can't plan individual things for everyone. So take advantage of it. Take advantage of this time to create a learning experience that is different and maybe even better, and take advantage of this opportunity. I also suspect that teachers, districts, administration are going to have some grace about the stress of all of this too on families. So give yourself permission to lean into that a little bit and ask for forgiveness and not permission when it comes to designing this how you want it to go. Because ultimately, you know your kids better than anyone, and you know emotionally what they're going to need to adjust to the turnover that is their life right now. So that's what I got to share about that. Okay. I like here, I see in the comments, Dan said we made a big COVID break board to hang on the wall with all the things our kids wanted to learn or do. I love it. And that's another thing. Let them lead. What are they interested in? Mm-hmm. Newsflash, that makes your job easier. Right. Because when they say like, I like this, or I want to learn this, or I'm wondering about this, then it's easy to get the resources for them to dig into it. And when they're interested in it, they go deep into it, and it frees you up from having to be there every second, right, teaching, right?
I have one more quick point to this,
Sure.
because I know Pam and Anna really spoke to sibling conflict. So if that's a challenge in your home, please listen to that podcast, like I said. But here is our number one parenting tip for behavior and sibling and all the stuff that goes into that category. And it has to do with control, and it has to do with the power of the word yes. So Jason and I say yes a lot. And most of the time it's to things that don't really matter to us. Okay. Because when, especially in a power type of child parent relationship, there's that power back and forth, right? Of independence, and kids who get told yes a lot actually can handle the no's a lot easier. You're building, it gives you capital later. So keep building that capital up so that when you have to say, no, actually, me and dad need to talk now and I can't do that right now, they're not going to flip out because you've said yes to a lot of things they wanted that day. And I'm not saying like be a pushover, but there's a lot of things like what they wear. Like, don't make them get dressed. If they want to stay in their pajamas, let them stay in their pajamas. Mm-hmm. Like, we have a pajama boy in our house, and unless it's a situation that's socially inappropriate, he's in his pajamas. And that's a lot of capital we gain from saying yes to that. And it means it's very inconsequential.
Yeah, it's speaking of capital, it's like it's picking up free money off the table. Like, right. If your kid wants to wear their pajamas all day and you're looking around, you're like, we're not leaving anywhere. And you can be like, yes, you can do that. You look like a hero, and you just picked up free money on the table because that they think it's amazing and you don't really care. And the trick, and this is the best tip of all, is I'm sure you probably started doing this week already, but as you go forward into next week, ask why a lot. Mm-hmm. That's how you uncover the rules that don't exist. Ask why. Why do I care about this? Why am I doing this? Why does this matter? Why should we do it this way? And answer it. And if the answer is, I don't know, or I guess that's how you're supposed to do it, or that's how we've always done it, that's a rule that doesn't exist. So give yourself the chance to ask why a lot, and you will uncover all sorts of these things. And the same goes too. We've talked a lot about like the schooling at home, but it's all of it. This entire experience, working from home, we've all been impacted in some way. And the natural thing is to try to do what we were doing before in as close as a way as we can do it again, do it now. And that's good. We talked about the other day about creating some anchor points and some habits that you look forward to every day, and that's important, but it's also a golden opportunity to find new ways of doing things. There are things that are happening now for all of us that are never going to be back the way they were, in a good way. Like, we're learning things about telemedicine and working from home and deliveries and all sorts of things that learning opportunities that are going to make this world better. I was talking to my brother yesterday. He works at a hospital, and he was telling me about how much creativity has been bubbling up because of some of the lessened restrictions that are happening from the government in order to allow care to happen and things to happen more quickly and more effectively. And he said there is so many things bubbling up creatively because of some of these, in this case, real rules that got bent and cast aside for the time being, that I'm hoping that people will realize maybe that was a rule we never needed to have in the first place. So this is an enormous opportunity for mindfulness. And I think it takes a little time to sort through things, but in the end, asking the question why and asking ourselves, is there a better way of doing this? It's part of the process, and we may not be great at it at first, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. So for everyone who's here, just a reminder, if you want to leave a question, there's an ask a question button at the bottom of this, at the window here. There's also a button there to get the free copy of A Chance of Awesome. We've been giving away the digital version for free because it just feels like it was written for a time like this. Mm-hmm. I didn't know this was coming when I wrote this book.
I don't think we knew this was coming 2 months ago.
It really feels appropriate. So we want everyone to have a chance to read it if you would like. So the link is there. If you go to our website, if you're watching this later, escapeadulthood.com. We have a little banner at the top that talks about some of the tools we put together to help you fight adultitis during this rough time. Almost all of them are free resources, so be sure to check that out. Mm-hmm. Let's see, looking at some comments. It's funny, Mary says, it's funny to see the ads and articles on Yahoo, AOL, etc., geared towards the stay-at-home crowd, like these people never existed before. Yeah, and that's something we noticed really early on, is some of the homeschool community really excitedly eager to share their expertise, but coming across a little bit condescending. And I think it's because they're used to being sort of like branded as weird and invisible, and so when they finally have some expertise, they're excited to share it.
Right.
And so that wasn't necessarily
we picked up on that pretty quick.
And this is something that, like Kim and I, we homeschool, so this is not that different for us. However, we've been talking about this and doing it for years, so there's a lot of mindfulness involved in it, and
it's taken us years to find a rhythm for ourselves.
Exactly.
So the idea that it isn't something you jump into overnight, literally.
So if there's anything that we want to give as a message, is to be kind to yourselves. We're all new at this. We're all experiencing things we've never had to go through before, and it's a challenge, and it's also an opportunity. And the opportunity comes when we examine why we're doing what we're doing, and we ask the question why.
Hi, Steve. Steven.
Oh, hey, Steve. How's it going?
Good to see you.
I wanted to share a little bit of good news, bad news. I don't know, people have heard about this, but bad news. Chuck Norris, you may have heard, has been infected with coronavirus, so that sucks. But the good news is coronavirus has been put in quarantine for 28 days. So good to go.
Go Chuck. My dad was a huge Chuck Norris fan.
Drinking a little bit more from the quarantine. This label, they really rushed it out the door. The label's a little off there, but yes. So what else is on your guys' mind? Do you guys have any thoughts? How are you feeling after this week?
Yes, right.
Love this interaction here.
Right. I will definitely say the other big thing I pulled away from that, as people, if you have questions, please put them in there. But the other big thing I pulled away from that podcast was, and it has to do with anybody, if anyone's in your home right now, that hopefully you know them, but anyone you live with, whether it's a spouse or, a roommate, that if their behavior is something that is challenging, it has to do with a need. Okay, so behaviors are tied to needs, and this goes for anyone, any age. So that's something to articulate. I think this week is probably a week that people are like, I don't know if everyone has the words yet to process what all the fears are, the emotions. It's happening so quickly. So again, give each other some grace, but also maybe ask that question of like, how are you doing? And shut up and see what they say. We're doing that to neighbors even from 6 feet away, and
saying shut up.
No.
Shut up.
And you say, how are you guys doing? And boy, 15 minutes later, you're walking away saying, well, keep trekking along, and people, it's a lot to ask of everyone.
Yeah. One of the things I would like to share, we have a few minutes here. I've been doing a lot of reading about the psychology and the business model of the news business. And I'm convinced that the news media is actually making things worse. And I'm not saying it in terms of like, that it's a bigger problem than it is, or it isn't a big problem in terms of the actual coronavirus crisis. But it was interesting is that in a few years ago, it became possible for us to measure the effectiveness of clicks and eyeballs. And we've been able to do a lot better job of measuring what gets attention, what gets clicks, what drives traffic. And so these news organizations, which are public or private organizations, have CEOs that run them, and the CEOs are typically rewarded for making money. and eyeballs and traffic and attention drives money. And so when you see a lot of headlines that are written to make you afraid and written to be sensationalist so that you click through. And the other thing I read today is that they don't actually care how long you spend on the site. What they're measuring is page views and impressions. So the idea that the news is to inform us is actually largely false, because if they were to inform it, they would want us to stay on the site and actually learn the details of things, but they really just want to drive clicks. Now, there is a lot of good people putting out good information.
Right.
You do need to stay informed, but I think my only challenge, and again, this is not political at all, is just to try to stay away from the news as much as possible, because it's not nearly as informing as we think it is. It's adding to the fear and it's adding to panic. I find myself that when I stay off of it and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm doing the social distancing, we're doing everything the CDC is saying. And then when I go for a walk, or I listen to music, or I play with my kids, or I do something productive, I feel better. And as soon as I start looking at all of the headlines, I feel immediately terrible and panicked and fearful and all that. And I bet you can relate to that. So it's just been interesting for me to learn a little bit about business models and psychology and things like that. And I think that's hopefully something that is just a good reminder. I say this to you because I need the reminder myself, frankly.
Right. Well, they'd say maybe you take like a media diet throughout the day.
That's what I'm personally going to try to do that this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that if I shut everything down and spend time with the kids and the family, that when I wake up Monday morning, the world will still be here. See, if not, I have a little bit more quarantine left that can help get me through it. But
So Shelby says something interesting. She said, I've started listening to audiobooks on Overdrive, Libby, through the library versus listening to the radio, at least in the car driving to and from work. It gives me a break from constant news updates and distracts my mind pleasantly. Oh, yes, that was a great idea. And the kids even do like YouTube audiobooks. Like there's people reading Harry Potter on YouTube and all sorts of stuff. So even if you don't subscribe to anything or don't want to spend any more money right now, like the library and all that, there's a lot of resources.
Yep.
So thanks, Shelby.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everyone who's been sharing some good stuff. We have just looking at some of the other comments. Yeah, we have a weekend challenge for you. Okay. So I don't know how many people have taken the time to go into Escape Adulthood League and look at Cheap Family Fun. Like we said, there's 14 absolutely free videos. And these are just like quick, free little cheap funds you can do with those in your household. And it doesn't have to be with kids. It's just fun stuff. One was Big Tent Living Room, which was make a big tent in your living room. And that will stay up all weekend and we're going to have an awesome time in it. We built it so that the TV's in it, and last night was really cozy and cool. So we could watch shows and stuff there in it. So. We used some of the pro panel walls that I used for my art shows. And I brought them up and I was like, am I cheating? Like actual, but my inner goal was to be able to allow my recliner to be in the tent. And hey, rule it doesn't exist. Tents have to be small. This is we're gonna make this happen. Tents have to be uncomfortable. Frankly, Mom and Dad did most of the work yesterday with this putting this tent up. But they wanted help, but we had a vision. But that's the beauty of it, is like when you're a kid, you don't know about physics and things like that, and you don't know how you can pull out the clamps that Dad has in his toolbox and save the day. So that's a golden opportunity right now. And by the way, you don't need to have kids to be able to take advantage of that. I know Terry came back from his run I saw earlier in the chat, and Terry McMillan has an epic tent. He's in his 20s. He is living in an epic tent in his living room right now with his, I don't know who's all living in his apartment with him, but I know he's at college. So that's pretty epic. Yes. So as we wrap things up here, the weekend challenge. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So the weekend challenge to you guys, and we will ask next week how it went, is to have a. So is this homework? Yes, this is homework. Yeah. Because we're taking the weekend off, but we'll be back Monday at 3. So we hope you join us. Oh, and if you thought this was useful, whether you're watching it live or watching it after the fact, please spread the word. let people know about it. Like, let this be a resource for people.
And make sure you follow the show on the Crowdcast.
Yes.
Yes, you can push follow, then you'll know all the updates.
Yeah. So please spread the word. We really appreciate it. We've had a lot more followers that have been coming in the last couple of days. So that's really kind of encouraging, and we're excited about that. But yeah, that's the challenge, is building an epic living room tent, right?
No, that's not the challenge.
It's not?
No.
All right.
A living room picnic.
Surprise.
I know. A living room picnic. So if you want to go so far as to make a tent and have the picnic in the tent, but this is easy. All you literally do is put a blanket down and have a meal on a blanket. And I'm serious. If you have high schoolers, college students back, you do this. Like, don't just assume this is for families with little kids. And guess what? If you don't have any kids in your house and you can get down on the floor and get back up again, I think you should do it. See that little contingency?
Even if you can't, even if it takes you the rest of the weekend to get
what else do you do it? Like, what else you got to do? Spend an hour getting up, So it's just one of those fun things that ignites a little giddiness, having a living room picnic. So if you do it, send us a picture. We'll share it, and we'll just continue to share good stories like that.
Yeah. So remember, keep asking why. Keep asking why. Give yourself grace and kindness when things are a little bumpy, because we're all doing this for the first time. And as I said at the very beginning of the week, when I plagiarized Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers, right? That, like, look, it's like a scavenger hunt. Look for the good news. Look for the people who are stepping up. Look for the inspiring stories. Look for the examples that prove the truth that we will get through this, and we will come out of this stronger than ever. We're just wishing you guys the best weekend. Stay healthy, shine on. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you back here on Monday.
See you Monday.